to Elliott. Oh, the bicycle!
The shot, Bedoya with a goal, 1-0 Union.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Union Insider presented by Bimbo Bakeries USA. I'm Marisa and I'm joined by Sebastian Latou and Sheanon Williams. This was a pretty quiet weekend in the world of club soccer as most of the teams in Major League Soccer and every other league hit the pause button for a minute for the international window. Most players on the Union were able to rest up while a few reported to their national teams, including Andre Blake, Jose Martinez, Jesus Bueno, and Olivier Mbaizo. This international break came at a seemingly good time for the Union. They just finished up a months-long run in the League's Cup and were thrust right back into league play with just 8 regular season matches remaining. Now, whether a player was called up or not, how can each player use this international window to their benefit?
I mean, it's a good thing, especially having now just a game left in the regular season. I feel like for the people who, of course, go usually in their national team was a good thing for Bueno for the first time this season. I think it was a good positive thing for him to come back with more confidence. But for the player who stayed, I think it's great to spend more time with their family, rest a little bit, kind of like recharge the battery, and I think it was a good weekend for them since the school started. So all the players who have families, they can spend the first week with their kids going to school, and I think it's very important, I think, for the mental health for all the players to really finish the season strong.
For me, it's the same. It's the rest that they were able to get during this week off, and I think that for them, they're a team that's played the most games in Major League Soccer, so it's important for them to get that rest as they go into this 8-game stretch, and then after that, the playoffs. Like Seba talked about, just that time with your family is always nice to have, especially at the end of the season when things have been hectic.
It's time now for another edition of Bracket Breakdown presented by Subaru. October is inching closer and closer, and guys, you know what that means. Postseason soccer will soon be taking over our weekends. While the excitement mounts, there is still plenty of time for drama to play out, including where the Union will land, who they'll be playing, and which teams won't make the cut altogether. The Union currently sit in 4th place in the East, 46 points. They're 11 points out of first, but only 2 points behind 2nd place. Now, 2nd place means you get home field advantage. How confident are you, Sheanon, that the Union are able to get that?
I think that they're in a good spot. I think they've put themselves in a good position to get to 2nd place. They're only a few points back right now, and I think that by the end of the year they should be able to secure that. We know how important the home field advantage will be, especially as they get into the playoffs. We know what them having home field advantage could lead to, as we saw them get to MLS Cup last year, and I think that for them, that should be their goal right now. I think 1st place is a little bit more out of reach, and I think that 2nd place is something that they have to try and get if they're going to make another deep run in MLS Cup playoffs.
It's definitely a realistic goal for the Union going forward. As it stands, if the season were to end today, the Union would play Columbus in a best-of-3 series. But we know there's still some wiggle room. Some other potential opponents could be Atlanta, Nashville, depending on where they end in the schedule and the standings. So given the best-of-3 structure, who would be your most wanted opponent for the Union?
I don't really care. I think it's just like we all talk about having the home advantage feel. I think it's the most important. We all know when the Union play against good teams, they always play well, compared to maybe a team who is not making the playoff right now. They still have 1 game in hand, 2 in a standing right now, compared to maybe a New England team who is 2nd right now. If they win the games they have in hand, they pass 2nd, with 1 point in advance. So it's something, they can still play with. And when we look at their schedule, maybe besides Charlotte in the past 8 games they have, I think it's a lot of good team who is going to fight for points for the standing, and it's going to be, I think, lots of very, very nice game to see, to watch, and a good preparation for the playoff. But if the Union, I think, got a good role, especially at home, to win against those opponents, they can definitely get the 2nd place.
And speaking of segments that are back this week, it's time for a game we all know and love called Onsite, Offside, presented by Green Mountain Energy. This is how it breaks down. I pose a question to these two. They write down if they agree or disagree. Onside means agree. Offside means disagree. You ready?
Yes.
All right,
ready.
This one is a fun one. Okay, so Inter Miami is currently 14th in the East with 28 points. Over the last 5 years, the playoff cutoff was about 43 points. Onside, offside. Miami will secure at least 15 points in their final 8 games to make it into the playoffs. Real quiet as they think this one over. All right, Seba, you're done first. Let's see what you got.
I put on.
On. All right, they both agree. Who wants to go first?
Okay, I go. I mean, what we saw in the past month and a half, from Miami is a completely different team. I think they've been winning without, Lionel Messi in the past game. They all are confident. It's a different spirit in this team, and you can see the momentum going, for them. And I can see they can really get, this 9 or 8 place in the playoff. It's very close, and they have much more game in hands than all the other opponents. So I think it'd be a good thing for them, and I think they can do it.
All right.
For me, it's jump on Messi's back and see how far he can take you. I think that in the short time that we've been able to see Messi in the games that he's played, not only has he been outstanding, but also the level has just been raised by adding the players that they've added. And that's not easy to do in mid-season, but I think we're seeing a team kind of do it at mid-season. And I think that for the rest of the league, they're hoping that they don't get in. But I think as a fan of the game, you want to see them in. You want to see the storylines that come up and see who can take down the king.
Yeah, it looks like no one's been able to take down Miami quite yet. And as you said, Seba, they were able to win without him too, which is massive. All right, next statement. The Union have toggled between a back 3, a back 4 this year. They've had success with both. But in order for the Union to have a deep playoff run, they need to pick a formation and stick with it here on out, onside or offside. That the only way they will have a deep postseason run is if they pick a formation and keep it going. Sheanon, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, what you got?
I'm going with offsides.
Okay. Both are.
Same, yes.
And why?
For me, I think it's going to come down to the opponent that they face off against. I think each opponent offers something a little bit different in terms of the way that they'll try to attack the Union. And I think that while there might be a better formation for this game, there might be a better formation that they play somebody else where they need to play in a back 3. It also could come down to personnel that is available to them. I think in a lot of instances that we've seen them play in the back 3, it's because they're missing somebody or because Damian Lowe's been playing well. So I think it's going to come down to a more situational stuff than it's going to come down to, okay, this formation is better than this one.
Yeah, I agree too. I think it's a lot for personnel-wise. I think the fact that who is in a good form right now, who is going to play, we can play with 3. We all know the 3 is Glesnes, Lowe and Jack Elliott. But then, because of the opponent, like Sheanon said, it's very important to kind of have a game plan. If it's a 3-game series, if it's a 1-game series, if it's at home, if it's away, if you want to play more in counter-attack, if you want to play more, front forward and having maybe 2 holding midfielder to help in the pressing. I think it's very important to know what was the game plan, and you can really switch formation. You don't have to always keep the same one.
All right, and the final one here. Julian Carranza is currently 3rd in the Golden Boot race, 12 goals. He is 3 goals behind the current leader, Hani Mukhtar. Carranza will win the Golden Boot. Onside or off? This one looks like it's tough for Seba.
It is, I mean.
Sheanon, what do you got?
Unfortunately, I'm going offsides.
Why?
For me, right now he's 3 behind, and I just don't think that he'll close the gap. I think that he's had a really good year. We're going to hope that he can really start to tally up the goals, as we've seen him score 2 in the last 2 games. So we'll see if he can close that gap, but I think it's too big of a gap to close right now, especially with the teams that they have coming up and the challenge that they have. I don't see him having multiple games to close out the season in more than 1 or 2 games.
Well, Seba doesn't agree.
No, I go on just because I feel like it's important to have a big Carranza, to finish, the season. We need his goal. He were number 9. I like this number, so I believe he can do it and he can finish best scorer of the team. And I see maybe Hani Mukhtar or those guys maybe slowing down and him, picking up. So I believe in Julian Carranza, and I think he can do it.
We're stepping away for a bit, but first, let's take a look at This Week in Union History presented by Premier Orthopedics. This week in 2022, the Union continued their dominant ways at Subaru Park as they destroyed Orlando City SC 5-1. Goals in this one were scored by Mikel Ura, Daniel Gazdag, Alejandro Bedoya, Jack Elliott, and a João Moutinho own goal. We are back with Throwback Thursday presented by United Concordia. On Halloween 2021, the Union defeated FC Cincinnati by a score of 2-0 at Subaru Park. The spookiest part about that one for Cincinnati, it was their 3rd straight time being shut out at Subaru Park. Goals here were scored by Daniel Gazdag and Paxton Aronson. Welcome back to the show, everyone. I'm Marisa Pilla. Let's get into our first team report presented by Green Mountain Energy. FC Cincinnati hasn't been around for too long, but the Union are already starting to build quite the rivalry with them. Between a playoff battle a year ago, a 1-0 loss to them this season, and some familiar faces on the other side, the storylines for this matchup are anything but lacking. Here's what head coach Jim Curtin had to say about facing off with the Supporter Shield leaders.
You have two teams that I think know each other well. I think that they know each other's strengths and weaknesses. In some ways, the beginning of the game will probably, cancel each other out, and hopefully, it's an exciting match for the fan bases. So whatever personnel or formations or tactics that are decided, I think it's two teams that have shown that they play the right way in the Eastern Conference. I think we have pretty clear identities. When I tune in and watch Pat's team play and Chris's team play on a night where we're not playing them, I know what it's going to look like, which is the best compliment you can get in this league, because your identity is what you believe in as a coach, and it's something that I think a lot of clubs are chasing, and Cinci has a true identity, and I like to think that we have one too. So it'll be a great game, exciting. Margins will be tight, and hopefully we can execute and put on a good performance for our fans at Subaru Park.
Seba and Sheanon back here with me to break down this FC Cincinnati matchup. And FC Cincinnati became the first team in MLS to clinch a playoff spot this season. They are the best team in the league with their 57 points. Seba, what has been the consistent factor for their dominance this year?
I mean, it's what we saw last year with the Union. I think their defense has been on point. They don't give up a lot of goals. I think their back three have been very good. They know exactly how to play with each other. They don't give up a lot of goals each game, and it was a big strength for them to now then having their offense, being on the roll, and with Luciano Acosta, who has been one of the big players for them this year, really help his team offensively. You can see then the confidence they have, and whatever Pat Noonan is trying to make happening with his team as a spirit, you can see that they always play for each other, and it's a thing you saw a year ago, with the Union. We still sit for the Union, but I think it was what the Union did much better, last year to get the success they had, and Cincinnati right now is doing the same thing.
Cincinnati has one of the stingiest defenses in the league, have only given up 30 goals so far this season. What areas can the Union try to exploit? Where can they try to get the advantage going forward?
Well, I think it'll come down to what formation that they're going to use against this Cincinnati team. I think that they'll try to be on the front foot with them being at home. The game earlier this year I thought was a really close game that Cincinnati ended up winning later on in the game, but I think the Union were able to create some chances even though they probably weren't playing their first choice lineup. So I think it's going to be an interesting matchup. I think it's going to come down to whose defense plays better. We're talking about two of the better defenses in the league, and if the Union can have a better start, like I've harped on all year, then I think that they can come away at home with a victory against Cincinnati.
Anytime a team goes up against the best team in the league, it's an opportunity for the Union to make a statement about who they are. What statement needs to be made against Cincinnati?
It's to make they are here to get maybe the title of the East, like they did last year. But in the same time, I feel it's just being so close to the playoffs, they can show to Cincinnati, hey, if we play you again, maybe for the title of the East, we are here for a battle. It's not going to be as easy. So there's a lot of points, like we talk about, in the standing for the Union, so it's already like a big motivation. But at the same time, if you can beat, the number one, who is already, 10 points above you in the standing, it's a big confidence boost, for the end of the season and for the playoff.
With the Union taking on FC Cincinnati on Sunday, it's time to ask these two to hand over their keys to the game presented by Subaru. Sheanon, we're going to start with you this week. What is your key?
To not give up a goal in 20 minutes. I think that's a pretty simple ask. Easier said than done, but I think since June, the Union have given up a goal in the first 20 minutes 7 times, and that's too many times. Whether it be away or at home, you just can't start games that way, and we know that this game is going to be a home game for them. We know that there's going to be a big crowd on hand, and they just need to start the game and get the crowd behind them and get into the game without having to play behind from such an early point in the game. So looking for them to have a good start and to really be on the front foot and take the game to Cincinnati, as they are going to be the home team.
And we have seen the Union rally after conceding an early goal, but we don't even want to see them put in that position going forward. I understand. Seba, for you?
And for me, it's going to be to win the wide battle. So depending on how the Union is going to start, with 4 in the back, with 3 in the back, it doesn't really matter to me, but I would love to see Wagner, Ariel, or Baizo, who even start on the right side, to be the one playing higher, to really help the team offensively and make, the wide player of Cincinnati defend more than attacking more. And I think if we have those guys for the Union playing higher field and really pulling some rhythm into the game and giving some good crosses, we can having now our front 3, finishing in a box and have more chances. So I think the wide battle will be interesting to see if it's man for man, if we play the same formation, or if you play in a 4 in the back and have Ariel and Wagner or Baizo, coming more forward. I think would be a huge help for the team to score more goals and have Cincinnati defend the entire game.
When Union Insider returns, we'll take a look at a leading MLS MVP candidate that the Union will need to keep an eye on this Saturday against FC Cincinnati. We'll be right back after this. Time for this week's Chick-fil-A Nugget of the Week. Since FC Cincinnati entered MLS in 2019, the Union have hosted them 5 times at Subaru Park, including playoffs. The Union have conceded just 1 goal in those matches and have outscored Cincinnati 9-1. Welcome back to Union Insider, presented by Bimbo Bakeries USA. I'm Marisa Pilla, that's Sebastian Letou, and Sheanon Williams. The Union have a tall task this weekend when FC Cincinnati comes to town, and it's defending Luciano Acosta. The midfielder is having an MVP caliber season, so it's no surprise that he is this week's player profile presented by Subaru. With 13 goals and 11 assists, Acosta has contributed to 54% of Cinci's scoring. Shutting him down is easier said than done. He's come up in clutch moments for the team. He scores a lot of goals in the last 15 minutes of games, and he is super crafty on the ball. So Seba, defending him is no easy task, but where does it start with the Union?
It is not easy, that's for sure. I was able to play with him at the end of my career in DC United. He's such a good player. He can really create something out of nothing, as we say. He's very crafty. He's a number 10, so you don't really just see him, being as a forward. He comes down, gets the ball. He's very good at finding, those beautiful passes for the forward, but he can finish as well. But he's so good technically, especially in a dribble. So I would say not giving him a lot of space. I've always been somebody on him, make him back to the goal so he can really turn and face you and attack you right away, because he has a great vision. He can really find the pass. So it will be, I think, a big task for Martinez, for Bueno, for Maglin, whoever is in the midfield, to make sure they're on him, because he's drifting. He doesn't just stay in the midfield all the time. He likes to go to the left, he likes to go to the right. So it's a very important player for Cincinnati, and the task, for the Union will be big on him, because you can see this season he's been on fire and he's very confident.
How does defending change for him, not only just stopping him from scoring goals, but stopping him from facilitating goals? How does the defensive work change?
It's really about just having people in and around his space to crowd his space out and not letting him turn, face you up, and really start to drive with the ball. Seba talked about him finding different pockets of space, and he's somebody that's going to continue to look for those pockets of space wherever they might be on the field. And the Union need to do a good job of, anytime they're playing into Acosta, just getting tight to him, making him play back and give the ball up, and forcing them away from their own goal. I think if they can do that, they can really impact the way he's able to facilitate and help his team in the attacking third.
Let's now take a look at some of the action from this weekend in MLS around the league, presented by Torque. No Messi, no problem. Leonardo Campagna produced a brace without the GOAT's presence this weekend, and it was needed as Miami took care of Sporting Kansas City at home 3-2 to keep their playoff push going. It doesn't get much more dramatic than this. In the dying embers of the match, with New England leading 1-0, Minnesota's Franco Fragapane puts this one in the back of the net to draw level and steal 2 points from the Revolution's grasp. And to top it all off, the assist on this one came from the Loons goalkeeper, Dane St. Clair. We're stepping away one more time, but when we return, these guys will give me their players to watch for the Union's upcoming matchup against FC Cincinnati. Union Insider returns after this. Starting this year, every Union League match is on MLS Season Pass on Apple TV. Sign up today to make sure you don't miss a minute of the action. You can also check out the live Whip Around show MLS 360, or if you missed out on the live, you can relive every moment with full match replays. And get this, if you are a T-Mobile subscriber, you get the whole year of Season Pass content free of charge. Final segment here on Union Insider, presented by Bimbo Bakeries USA. And as always, it's time for our AllState players to watch. Seba and Sheanon have selected a player to watch for the Union's upcoming match against FC Cincinnati. Seba, you were up first. Who's your pick?
I'm going with Kai Wagner. I think he has been pretty good, the past couple of games for the Union. I really like all of his set pieces. I think he delivers lots of great ball in the corner kicks, in the free kick. He gave up, some good goals for Damian Lowe, from Glesnes in the past games. I think, if you see him, pushing really forward on his left side, he really helps the team much more offensively. I don't want him to stay shy and, stay in the back to be safe, but having, again, the left side, we talk about, the winning the battle on the wide for me against Cincinnati is going to be key for the Union, and if he does it, I think we can have good success and some goals for the team.
All right, and for Sheanon, you?
I'm going to go with an attacker. I'm going to go with Julian Carranza. For me, he's somebody that is going to be needed to be counted on for the Union to have a good run to end the season. He's been in good form in front of goals, scoring the last 2 games against Toronto and New York. Hopefully he can continue that trend in front of goal and score another one against FC Cincinnati.
And becoming the best scorer of the league.
We know he won't be the Golden Boot winner, but we can hope that he might be close.
All right, that's a conversation for another time. That's going to do it for us on this episode of Union Insider. The Union returned from international break on Saturday to take on Supporter Shield leaders FC Cincinnati. Kickoff is at 7:30 p.m. and can be seen on Apple TV, but you can listen to it, Sheanon Williams, Dave Leno, on the radio called 97.5 The Fanatic, and we will be back here next week to talk all about it. For Seba, Sheanon, and our entire crew, I'm Marisa Pilla. Have a great weekend, and thanks for watching.